Hi, I'm Jessica Alderson, the Head of Global Research at Workthere. Today we're going to be discussing the outlook for the UK flexible office market with Alex Clark, Sales Director at the Office Group, and Freddie Ward, our Head Broker in the UK. So just to start, what's the current situation like? Are people coming back to offices in the UK? And I mean, we actually published the results of our recent sentiment survey this week, and it showed that roughly a quarter of flexible office workers in the UK have returned to their offices. Is that in line with what you guys are seeing?
Yes, you can imagine we've seen a kind of a steady increase in terms of the number. We're tracking the number of our members. So we've got a 20,000 membership base within the Office Group's portfolio, and we're tracking on a daily basis kind of how many of them are coming into town. So now we're seeing about 35% of our member base in the offices on a weekly basis. But in terms of, I guess, the market, we've conducted a survey recently with Leaseman Index, and we now know, we've been speaking to our members fairly regularly too, but 97% of our members believe they will continue to need an office after the pandemic. So I guess broadly, we're feeling very confident that, we can see, I guess, as a trend that more and more people are coming back into the office. And clearly the intent from our clientele is to return over the next couple of months.
Yeah. And are you seeing any trends in terms of office locations? For example, are more people going back to offices in more suburban locations and fewer in city centres, or is there not really a trend like that?
I mean, there are some more popular locations. I would say the locations which are more fringe locations of London have certainly got more traffic, but the city in particular is seeing a lot of footfall, which I guess might come as a slight surprise, being core central London. But seeing a lot of people in the city, and then equally the fringe locations such as Hammersmith, Vauxhall, Notting Hill Gate, which is our newest building that we've opened. We're seeing a lot of footfall through those buildings too. But as I said before, I mean, many of our clients are still working from home, and the safety of our members as well as for our staff is absolutely paramount at the moment. And we're just making sure that, all of our spaces, communal spaces, the office spaces they're returning to are safe for them to come back to. So we're just making sure that all the measures are in place whenever the clients return in whatever building.
Yeah. And Freddie, is that what you're seeing across the market as well? Kind of similar numbers, maybe a quarter to a third coming back to the office?
Yeah, I think we definitely mirror that, and definitely mirror what Alex has said for London. Interestingly, we've seen good demand for the city from both new inquiries, but also existing clients who we've placed over the years. Them saying they're actually using their office at obviously a reduced occupancy, but wanting to get back into the office in some form of normality, and sharing that around the various teams, and making it really flexible for people to use that space should they wish. I think the other one for London in particular, again, as Alex said, is certainly zone 2, where you have got that a strong residential market. Again, we're seeing good demand for high quality spaces. So very much like Tog in Notting Hill, where people are working from home, and that demand might be at the smaller end, might be more for co-working space and smaller private offices, but typically where people are becoming, I suppose, frustrated from working at home, and really wanting that professional environment where you can just come down to the furniture, where you've got the correct furniture to work from, because people are beginning to get slightly fed up from working on their kitchen tables.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And there's been quite a lot of talk about management agreements being more popular going forwards. Is that something that you're thinking will happen with the Office Group, or is that something that you're currently looking at?
Sure. I mean, there's certainly a bigger opportunity now for landlords to look at these types of solutions. It's always been an interesting option, but now it's certainly something they're going to explore. I think we'll see growth in providers offering these services to landlords, and it will gain momentum as an option across central London. We've discussed them at length with various landlords previously, and equally we are doing the same thing now, and looking at how we can, I guess, expand our portfolio at more pace in a more simplified agreement. Alongside this, I guess there'll be appetite from corporate occupiers to take more flexible agreements versus something more traditional lease. So this is it's a great hybrid option for them to take, a single floor managed by TOG, but maybe it's not a fully serviced office that they would take with us in other portfolio assets. I think it offers a great opportunity. As I said, it offers a great opportunity for providers to expand, and I think corporates are certainly seeing the benefits that TOG can offer and are buying into our design expertise, so we can still deliver that design expertise through a management agreement. But during lockdown, we signed a deal with a FTSE 100 firm taking an entire building in the West End that is near completion. So despite the pandemic, we still delivered the largest deal within our portfolio we've seen. And our ethos, I guess, is a main contributor as to why companies such as this FTSE 100 firm are choosing to work with TOG on a larger scale projects. And I guess this kind of ties quite nicely into management agreements too, because we can look at opportunities that way too.
Yeah. And obviously the longer term opportunities of the flexible office market as a result of COVID-19 are positive because of this kind of move towards flexibility. Do you think there will be some landlords that say, right, I'm doing this myself, I'm not going to partner with a flexible office provider? Or do you think most of them will actually realise it's quite a different offering, I guess, and prefer to partner with a flexible office provider?
Yeah, I think, the trying to compete with we hold ourselves in high esteem in terms of our design and service. And I think landlords trying to compete directly with us, will be very challenging. The landscape now post-COVID and pre-COVID in London certainly is highly competitive. So yes, do I think landlords would explore doing it themselves? Absolutely. But they need to ensure that they can not only, I guess, deliver a brilliant product to a client, but also the service. And even if the service is lesser than what you would see within a purely flexible building, a client would still expect a high level of service. And it's whether a landlord is used to having to manage a client in that way. And look, I think some will absolutely enter the market and will do it very successfully, but I think others will look to partner with providers such as ourselves as a way of securing tenants.
Yeah. And so, Freddie, do you think there are any other structural changes that have been caused or accelerated by COVID-19?
Yeah, I think we're in that period now where it's we're starting to reflect on the changes that have already happened and started to forecast what those long-term structural changes could be. But I think we're a little way off just in terms of really firmly saying how the product, how the model will look for the long term. I think as Alex said on the management agreements, it's nothing new. Landlords have been doing it, but I think it's key now for the whole market to really educate the landlords on how best to structure those agreements so it benefits everyone. It benefits the landlord, the operator, and then the customer. I think the model is obviously crucial to supply and demand, and landlords typically hold the supply, but the key thing is capturing that demand. Obviously in a ever increasingly competitive market is how do they compete with the more established brands where they have got the sales and marketing structures in place as well as the operational aspects, so they're able to deliver that first class service. So yeah, I think we'll definitely see some developments. I think how the consumers and the customers use the space is becoming more demanding. We've seen most recently, I suppose, tenants and occupiers asking more from the membership model. So rather than just renting space for a set number of desks. They're obviously wanting to use that space for a wider team, and how those membership models accommodate that rotational workforce. And then equally how a provider or a landlord manages that workforce within the building, within their business, will be crucial moving forward. And I think that will be a key element where technology will play a key part in doing that and making it as efficient as possible for both operators and landlords.
Yeah. And one, trend that was definitely starting to play out even before COVID-19 was that corporates were using flexible offices more and more. And Alex, it's interesting that you said that a major company recently took a whole building. I guess, do you think that has now been accelerated even more, that trend? And do you think corporates will make up a much more significant portion of a flexible office member base going forwards?
Yes, certainly. I think this type of transaction is one we expect it to be the first of many as we continue to acquire more buildings across the UK. And we open our first building in Germany on Monday. So we are absolutely starting to engage with more corporates on a kind of day-to-day basis. And not only, I guess, do they take a whole building solution, but we're currently engaged, as Freddie already just discussed. The membership product itself is being challenged at the moment. So not only, some of the corporates that we are in discussions with are looking at diversifying their own portfolio, which doesn't mean they want to, up and move their entire team or a particular department. But what they want from us is, a drop in space, and that they can rotate staff within. And we're putting together a lot of proposals currently with corporates direct, and equally for our agents. I know I put one together for Freddie during lockdown, but we're getting asked the question. It's challenging us to rethink our offering. So we've looked at all of our membership products, and we've started to, I guess, evolve them. So we would love to be able to give clients, a 20-person office with 20 additional cards, but that would put immense pressure on our buildings, because it's very difficult to manage how many physical people are entering the building at a given time. In terms of the technology platform, it would be a big challenge for us. So if we are to give double access cards, what you may find is that on a particular day where they had a team meeting, you would have 40 people for the 20-person office. So 20 would be in your lounge, and not that we don't, we're not happy with that, but I think it would make a number of our office clients, uncomfortable if the lounge was overpopulated. So we need to be really cautious with our approach. And, we're now starting to encourage our co-workers to take dedicated desks, for example, so that they have the same space, it's clean, it's secure, they have their own storage, and more people are now inclined to take that type of membership rather than a co-working product where you do just kind of drop in and out of buildings or drop in and out of lounges. So it's caused us really to, I guess, revisit our products, and it's a good time. We're enjoying working through these. You can probably also imagine a lot of clients now want virtual offices. So clients who previously had a small office with us, have taken the opportunity to remove that liability of an office contract, and their staff will work from home probably for the rest of the year, and they will take a virtual. So our virtual product, we've seen a huge spike in inquiry volumes for that too.
Okay, yeah, and it's a good point about kind of dedicated desks. Like, do you think that essentially, shared desks, hot desking will not really exist for the remainder of the year, at least?
I think they do still exist within our portfolio. So, the lounges, I guess, operate as a hot desk, but the physical desk, they are dedicated. So, during lockdown, we took our entire co-working customer base and we allocated all of them a dedicated desk. So, they're paid co-working members, but they have their own safe desk. And we essentially allocated a number of our offices to them, and we gave them all a desk named, so it just means that when they do want to come into town, they know they have a space that is really secure, is clean, and is ready for them to use. So we put that into place from the beginning of June, and a number of our co-workers, are obviously enjoying working in that environment. What we also then enable them to do is we enable them to book a desk at a different building. So we've allocated 10 offices in 10 different locations, so that if, for example, a dedicated co-worker had a desk in King's Cross, but they had meetings in the West End, we could book them a desk which would, of course, be clean and ready for them, named again for the following day to work in a building such as Henry Wood House in the core West End. So we really quickly adapted our co-working product to ensure that our members were comfortable coming back into work. And I think this will continue throughout the rest of the year. This is what we're going to have to offer. And for new business, this is certainly something that has seen an uplift in terms of conversion rate. People are very keen to take what we're able to offer now for co-workers.
Yeah. And Freddie, so the typical flexible office membership agreement across the market has tended to be that you buy a monthly or yearly membership agreement, varying lengths, and then that is kind of one person uses that 5 days a week. But do you think going forwards there'll be even more flexible membership agreements, in the sense that you might have a team working at a big corporate who actually want to work in or at home or in their main office maybe 2 days a week, and then in a flexible office 3 days a week? Have you been seeing any inquiries for that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're in that period now where corporates and companies alike are wanting to investigate those options and investigate how those solutions could benefit the business moving forward. And I think during this time, it's empowered the employee as much as ever, really. I think it really comes down to the talent attraction, talent retention. And I think the office will still play a key part in doing that. What that office looks like, I think will definitely change and will definitely shift. But I think flexibility is key, and being able to provide that to the staff will be fundamental to that business. We've had a number of conversations around the hub and spoke model, and how that could potentially provide a solution to those businesses in offering the various options to the staff, so they're not tied to one particular location. I think that still has a way to go, and how that's managed from an operator's perspective. I think that there will still be some further development there. But platforms, such as Designer or Coworker, it's starting to make some great progress in being able to provide that intermediary, that platform for that occupier to flex in and out of particular providers and across the market. So they're not tied to one location, they're not tied to one provider. It's just increasing the amount of choice available. And I think that would be key moving forward.
Yeah. Okay, so flexibility will definitely be even more important going forwards. But kind of as a whole, what do you think the office landscape will look like in 5 years' time? Maybe Alex and then Freddie.
Sure. I think, providers will need to adapt and offer more flexibility on terms to drive new business throughout this year, and we're doing so. As Freddie just alluded to, the requests are multiple access cards, multiple locations. We're able to largely deliver against these. So, all providers will need to react and create and give more flexibility to new and existing clients. I think, providers will need to focus on, even more so now than ever, on wellness and well-being, as companies do desire, health, safe and healthy workplaces for their staff. And, we were already very much in tune with wellness and well-being within our buildings, offering, gyms, meditation suites, healthy cafe. Our provider offers very healthy food and beverages. So, it's something that we're going to continue to need to evolve, and I think all providers across our market will do the same. In terms of in 5 years, I think, we'll probably see most companies using flex space in some form. About 40% of our current inquiry volume comes out of the conventional sector, which is far higher than prior to COVID. I think the pandemic has of course, has changed everything. Our notion of what an office is has certainly been disrupted, and it's been displaced and replaced now by a more fluid concept that no longer meshes with the restricted nature, I guess, of a more traditional office space. Although remote working is kind of no doubt here to stay to some extent, I think what's becoming abundantly clear is the office is a special place where, collaboration happens and people crave that interaction with one another. Connecting the culture of a business often comes from the office, and working from home simply cannot provide that ability. And I think at a time when adaptability has become essential, flex spaces are built to thrive, and offering businesses the choice and nimble thinking that these spaces just simply aren't able to match. So I think the flexible sector has certainly got a really bright future, and that's our view.
Cool. And Freddie?
Yeah, I think the flex market is really well paid to flourish out of this. As Alex said, the providers have already invested so much time, money, and resource in developing their products and developing the service just outside of the actual physical office space, and not to mention the design of that space as well. So from an outsourcing perspective, I think there's huge opportunity for providers to really accelerate their growth and be able to facilitate those services and those requirements that we're now seeing from the various demand across the market. I think there will certainly be winners and losers, both from a flex perspective and from a wider office perspective as well, and even coming back to occupiers. I think some will get it right and some might not. But yeah, I think what does the office mean for the future workforce is fundamental. And I think geographically, I think those decisions will play a key role as well. As I mentioned earlier, the hub and spoke model is starting to come through, but will we see an almost a business park 2.0? We're starting to see some real positive signs from well-designed business parks where they're able to offer that external amenity that we know people are now thriving to have, because they've had more time at home, they're spending more time outside, and they're now really starting to value those aspects of an office. And I think coupled with a still a centrally located HQ, that's quite a compelling package for a large company to be able to offer to their wider workforce.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, thank you very much, Alex. Thank you, Freddie. It's been great chatting.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.